Can all hear me good?
As long as you say something nice, it'll sound good.
Thank you all for coming out tonight for this little get-together. I hope you are enjoying the wind. You know, the weatherman promised me a beautiful evening for this get-together, but I guess the weatherman is more politician than weatherman, so we'll have to deal with the wind. I want to thank Glen Eagles and Kim for hosting this event for me tonight. She does a real good job supporting the local politicians. Give her a hand, would you? I also want to thank my good friend Marty. She can't be here tonight. She has had to go down to San Diego to take care of her sister. She's responsible for this get-together. She's recruited all the extra helpers, Sandy and Ann, that were working on the table over there, and we have Scott and Peter here taking care of some issues for me tonight. So this is kind of one of the hard parts that I generally have trouble with, so I'm going to just get it done right at the start. I need to ask for your vote. That's the only way that we can keep this town going in the good direction that it is going. And along with that vote, I need your support in a bunch of different places. The first part is funding. I really have to ask you for money tonight. That's kind of a blunt way to do it, but it's the only way I know how to be. I need you to go on my website, take a look at what's on there, and encourage your friends to look at the website. There's an incredible amount of stuff on there that will help you understand how I think and what I want to do once I get elected. I need you to go on my Facebook pages, my personal page and my campaign page, according to Facebook protocol, are kind of intertwined together. So if you can go on there, like and share those two pages, and encourage your friends to do that. That's one of the primary sources that I'm using to get the word out. It's pretty incredible how that works, how far-ranging those kind of activities go. I'll tell you a little story that happened just today. So about an hour ago, I got a call from my son. My son lives in Connecticut. He says, "Dad, I'm sitting here messing around on YouTube watching a video, and you never guess what ad showed up on the video that I'm watching. All the way to Connecticut from a little video that I posted on YouTube yesterday morning." So I just tell you that to show you the effectiveness of liking and sharing, even though, including myself, we probably all really hate Facebook. But it's an important tool that we have to use nowadays. So I want to give you a little background on myself. Carson City is my hometown. I still live here after 62 years because I like this town, because I want to be here. I know a lot of people have trouble with the amount of growth that we have, but you know what? If we're not growing, we're dying. We can't do that. So we're just going to have to manage as best we can these kind of issues. I'm a retired diesel mechanic. I spent 40 years officially doing that. But I've held a lot of jobs in other fields. I've been a salesman. I've worked in machine shops. I've worked in construction. I've worked in the farming industry. And so I have a very diverse background that really covers a lot of the activities that our city government has to do. I think with this diverse background, I offer this city something that they don't currently have on the Board of Supervisors. And that's a person that has been in the trenches. That's a person that understands what staff is talking about when they want to buy a new $1 million machine or work on some air conditionings. What we have right now is primarily administrative people. Now that's really important as well, but we need a better, more well-rounded Board of Supervisors. The way I intend to approach this position is I will continually refer to what I have studied in regards to our founders' principles and theories. Every agenda item that comes to me, my first question is going to be, is this something that our founders think we should be doing? Then I'll move on from there. Is this something the city needs? Is this some of those primary issues that we're required to do and that we should do? I have a couple ideas on what those issues are. The first ones really are that we need to concentrate on the health and safety challenges that our businesses, our residents, and our visitors expect our city to provide. And that's things like good streets, clean water, safe neighborhoods, highly functioning fire and sheriff's departments. We get to that point mostly through the asset management program. Now, they're already working on that, but I think that is one of the places where I have the tools to help them finish that project off with responsible priorities. So the way it works is they are using fact-based assessments of all of the city facilities. They give them a grading score, and that starts up the priority process. But you know, there's always something pops up. There's always some other thing we didn't see. So we're going to be continually working on that. Funding is going to be another issue, and that's a moving target that, frankly, I think the city's budget is in pretty good place, but we're going to have to be creative and nimble when it comes to some of the things that have to happen. And part of that is the mental health issues here in town. The sheriff's department deals with that all of the time, and to a certain extent, so does the fire department. So the sheriff has a couple of programs that he uses for these mental health issues, and frankly, those programs need to be bolstered to a certain extent. The first one is the MOSE program, the Mobile Outreach Safety Team. What they do with that is when they come in contact with a person in the street that is having a mental health crisis, the deputy that responds to that call, he's able to call this MOSE team, and that's the Mobile Outreach Safety Team. That team consists of a specially trained deputy and a licensed clinician. They assess the situation and decide, hopefully, that this person would be better helped if they didn't take them to jail. They have some options. One of them is taking them to the Mallory Center. If you don't know what that is, it's a mental health facility here in Carson City up on Mountain Street. And there they can get these people settled down, get them out of their crisis, and hopefully get them hooked up to services that will help them quit offending. And that's been pretty successful, but they only have the one team. Well, there's a lot of things that go on outside the shift of that team, so they can't use that team enough. So we need a second MOSE team. Once they get a person to jail, they have what's called FAST, Forensic Assessment Service Triage Team. What those folks do is, if the person that's been arrested, they can assess these people, find out what their problems are, find out what their needs are, and again, get them into services so that we can stop this wash, rinse, and recycle situation that's going on, because it just doesn't work. Costs the city a lot of time and money. We have to find a way to fund another shift of the FAST team as well. We move over to the fire department side of the deal. The fire chief tells me that they are on the outer fringes of their overtime use. What that does is you put fatigued and tired people in the field. Sometimes tired people don't make good decisions. So I know that the city has applied for a grant to get some relief in that area, but that grant is on a sliding scale kind of deal where the grant starts out paying most of it, the city only pays a little. And then as it moves on, it starts to switch. Pretty soon there's no grant money, city has to pay it all. We need funding to keep these people on the payroll once that grant goes away. With the construction in housing that's going on right now, the fire chief tells me that we're probably in about 3 years of needing a new fire station. That's not just putting up some bricks. That's equipment and personnel. That's going to be pretty expensive. We need to find a way to fund these things, because if we want Carson City to continue to be a place where families and business and visitors want to be, we have to have these two departments functioning flawlessly. That's pretty much the things that I am going to concentrate the hardest on when I get elected. And at this point, I want to open it up to questions and comments and hear from you folks what you think the city needs to be doing, and maybe I can give you some clarification on questions that you have. So the question is, are we going to need another high school? My conversation with the superintendent of schools here in town, that'd sure be nice. But there's a problem of finding enough property to get it done. That's their big issue right now, is a big enough parcel, properly located. You know, they just tried to buy a piece of property down off of Schneider to try to get some relief in that particular regard. So eventually, yeah, we're going to have to figure that out, because, you know, Carson High School's too big. I mean, we like to think we're a small town. What are we doing with one of the biggest high schools in the state? What else?
This increase of building and so forth and growth, isn't that going to bring in more revenue from more taxes and so forth?
The question is, all the building and growth in town, is that going to bring in new revenue? Well, you certainly think so. It's funny you asked that question. I just this morning sent an email off to the city manager asking that very question. What's the difference in property tax going to be once all the current construction and permits, the under construction and the coming permits, what's that going to do? I don't know if there's a way to answer that, because all the assessment takes place after the building is done. So, yes, it will increase revenue, but to what extent, I don't have that answer today. Carol? Do we get revenues from the casinos? Yes, we do. So part of the tax, property tax, that sort of thing. I don't know to what extent. I know they pay the property tax, they pay room tax, they pay alcohol tax, tobacco tax. I don't know how long that list is, but they do pay a good number of taxes, yes, along with the gaming tax itself.
How many members are on the board of supervisors? Like, you're going to run for this one office. How many members are on that same type of board?
How many members are on the board of supervisors? There are 4 supervisors and 1 mayor. Makes a total of 5. I think I saw a question over here earlier. Oh.
You all seem to be on the same track. Do you know the other people, and are they all thinking the same way?
I do know the other people, and no, I don't think we think exactly the same. And I think I'm able to work with those folks. I know them well enough to know that they're nice folks. We're not going to break into fisticuffs like the Douglas County commissioners did. I think that's one of the things that we need to look at is what that balance is. You know, I realize this is a legally nonpartisan seat, but as far as I'm concerned, no seat is nonpartisan. Going into January, we have 2 Democrats. I'm a Republican. Lori's a Republican. She'll be there as the mayor. So we'll have 2 Ds and 2 Rs. And it looks like the current board is going to choose the Ward 3 replacement. So y'all are going to have to get loud and proud about who you want to do, who you want the Board of Supervisors to appoint to that Ward 3 seat, because it's going to be important.
You have an awful lot of power. I mean, it's something that you really have to deal with.
You're right. It's going to be important. If we're going to hold the line, we better have more R's than D's on that board.
Why do they call it nonpartisan?
So why do they call it nonpartisan? The legislature allows the different chartering entities to decide how they want their political makeup to be, and they can just choose that we don't want party affiliation, and that goes into the charter. So, you know, the legislature's coming. If we want to change that, we have a charter committee that gets together before every legislature, about 6 to 8 months before the legislature, put that request in to have that discussed. Anything else? There must be more questions. Yes. Go ahead, Dan.
Man pretty well summed up what I was going to tell them about all of these problems. Opportunities. We're going to have fire department, police, whatever. Are we planning now to tax that money?
So the question is, with the challenges that we have going forward, fire and sheriff's department, are we planning on that now? I don't know if it's to the point of being called planning yet, but it is certainly being discussed. And 3 years ahead of needing a new fire station is certainly a good time to start discussing.
What I was going to say is, there are so many towns, when they're building new homes or apartments or whatever, they make sure that the money that these people are paying for their home or their condo or whatever also includes money that goes to the city for schools, for police, for firemen. Do we not do that?
So the question is, do we get money from people that are developing the housing that's going on? Yes. Right now, the city has what they call impact assessment. When a development comes on board, they have a way of knowing that you have created a future need of X. And so they put that money in the bank, and when enough development happens, then they build that new stoplight, they build the new intersection. That way they avoid having the last man in get hammered for the whole thing that everybody participated in creating. So I know there's been some questions about that put towards me in recent history. I don't have a lot of understanding how they're actually managing that impact assessment fee, but I would certainly be willing to have a conversation with like the real estate people, the contractor people, those sort of folks that are that are paying those fees. Let's find out if they think it's equitable. Let's find out if it's being managed correctly, and let's just make sure that we don't have one person in the group being forced into not doing a project because they can't afford the impact fees. What else?
Hi, everybody. In case you don't know, this guy has attended every supervisor's meeting, I think, for the last, 5 years? He really knows what's going on in this city. We've got to get him elected. He is just wonderful.
Thank you, Mary. You know, I have skipped a few meetings in the last year or so. I decided I needed to relax and recharge before we started this campaign, but I can assure you, I've had my nose in those agendas, watching them on video, and of course now with the COVID, that's my only opportunity.
Who is your opponent and where do you differ with her?
My opponent is Stacy Wilkie, and it's hard to say where we differ because she does not campaign. I see no activity from her whatsoever. I do know that she's been on the school board long enough to be termed out, but other than that, I don't know what her policy ideas are. I don't know what she's doing.
Is she a Democrat?
She is a Democrat.
Well, that says it all.
She's run the school board. So that should answer your question.
Yeah, she's been on the school board for a long time, so if you're happy with where that's going, there's your sign. Are there any other questions? There has to be more questions. It can't be that easy.
Does the Board of Supervisors have any influence over the school board? What's happening in schools?
Does the Board of Supervisors have any influence over what goes on at the school district? They are two completely separate governmental entities, operate in their own world. They do have quarterly get-togethers to discuss with one another what's going on. I have recently had a meeting with Richard Stokes, the superintendent, and I had a meeting with Nancy Paulson, the city manager, proposing the idea that we start collaborating together on some of these large expenses that we have. I think both people told me that's been looked at before and it just didn't work out. But I think when we're looking at this black hole that the state budget is creating, we're going to have to get very creative with our budget. And if there's been some misunderstandings or whatever in the past why they didn't get there, I think we need to reevaluate that, to be perfectly honest with you. I know that the city budget is actually in pretty good shape. Mr. Stokes tells me that he's not too worried about the school budget at this exact moment, but only time will tell what the governor's doing with his $1.2 billion, because that's a precursor to unfunded pushdowns that the city's going to have to absorb, that the school district's going to have to absorb, that the weed department's going to have to absorb. And so maybe it didn't work in the past, but we're going to have to look at it again. Because think about it, if you've got nearly 1,000 people working for the school district and nearly 1,000 people working for the city, you put 2,000 people together in the same insurance fund, it's got to be cheaper. So I think we need to go down that road and seriously explore working together on those sort of things.
What is the population of Carson City today versus what it was 10 years ago?
what is the population today versus 10 years ago? Well, I don't have 10 years ago numbers right in my head, but today we're at about 56,000 people. When I was born here in Carson City in 1958, there were 5,000 people. This city has grown, on average, 10,000 people every 10 years since I've been here. It's not going to quit. You know, we're not making that many babies. They're all moving here because it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Is there any influence on the amount of Californians that are moving over here? Like, people are leaving California, and that's where all this is.
Is there?
Have a good influence on this state, or California?
Well, the question is, what's the influence of Californians coming over here? Well, look at the legislature, and that answers your question. I don't think we need to go any further than that. See you guys. Thanks for coming out. Well, you know, back in the 70s, it used to be bumper stickers. Thanks for visiting, buddy, and go home. That was always kind of funny, but yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Welcome to Carson City. We're happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good guys?
Yes, good guys. We typically refer to you folks as refugees. Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what we're after. Yes, way in the back. So Colleen lives on, works on North Carson Street. She's having a lot of trouble with the homeless, and she doesn't care for the housing project that Fish is getting ready to take under over there right off of Main Street. So the funny thing about the homeless issue, somewhere along the line, they have inherited rights to hang around on the sidewalks and be obnoxious. One of the things about the homeless is you can't help them until they want help. And I think that is part of what the Most and the Fast team will do. Once you get those people settled down, get them out of their cloud so that they can think, they'll want help. But it takes an effort by everybody in the neighborhoods to call the sheriff, to do whatever you have to do to get them some help. And I know a lot of time that's pretty frustrating because if you pay attention to how many sirens we hear in this town every single day, sometimes they don't have time to get there to take care of those nonviolent situations. So if we have another Most team, those two people can get over there and take care of that in the evenings, hopefully.
Anyway, I would like to see the Nevada State Prison open up as a museum. Can the Board of Supervisors here in town do something to make that happen? Because that would draw so many visitors into this place, and I would think, you know, allow us to make a lot of money in this town if we would make NSP a museum.
Thank you, Joey. Did you all hear the question? So at this point, I have to make a disclosure.
Yeah, really.
Before I'm even elected, I'm making disclosures.
Maybe we should have something to say before you make
I am the vice president of the Nevada State Prison Preservation Society. Now, I have endeavored to not politicize that position, and I will not politicize it, but I will answer the question. Yes, the Board of Supervisors can do things that will help that museum come to fruition. Because it is a government facility and will always be owned by the government in some nature, there will always be some sort of government funding or government help or exemptions or whatever that can come to that group to get that museum up and running. I will tell you that I had a very good meeting today. I can't be very public, but I had a very good meeting today about acquiring a new president for that group. If this works out, you're going to be very happy what that prison will turn into. The Nevada State Prison is located right on 5th Street. If you're traveling east, when you go on the bridge over the freeway, as you come off the bridge, it's directly to your right. It's a great big sandstone building. So there's the decommissioned prison, which has a historical part and a modern part, and then down the driveway is Warm Springs Correctional Center. So that's part of why it's a weird deal going on there, because we share a fence line with an active prison.
I've got one final thing to say. When you are elected, you are going to make a big difference in this board of supervisors. Because your ideas are going to be fresh and they're going to be honest. And I think you're going to make a difference.
Thank you, Elmer. Elmer shared that he believes when I'm elected, I'll make a big difference because my ideas are fresh. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much. Anything else? Yes.
I wanted to ask, is there some way that once you're elected, you can let us know exactly what's going on? So we don't have to be at every meeting, but if you are against something that is brought up, is there any way that you can let us know what it is and why you are against it?
Yes, there is. I will continue blogging on my website and my Facebook, and if there's enough call for it, I will put out a newsletter, because I know a lot of folks, like you, probably don't do Facebook.
Right.
Probably most of the people here don't, except to keep up with your grandkids. Yes.
That gentleman in the green shirt has tried to get your attention for the last few
He
minutes.
is.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
I wanted to pick up on what the lady said before. Now, I have known you for about an entire decade, and I have always found you to have an encyclopedic knowledge of local affairs, the NRS, all the interrelationships between all the government agencies and all that.
The mic up, can't hear you.
I can't understand why you haven't been elected mayor by now.
I appreciate the sentiment, but you know the new mayor's sitting right over there.
No, you're going to do a great job. No question.
Did you have a question? Okay. Anybody else?
Mo, as a final comment, because I know you're on the prison board for that, as it becomes more of a tourist facility, many of you may have traveled Highway 90. I think it's between Bozeman and maybe Sheridan, Wyoming.
Deer Lodge, Montana prison.
Yeah, the big prison as a tourist attraction, the parking lot is jammed with that thing anytime you want to come by there. People, for some reason, want to know what goes on inside of an old prison.
Right. Again, in full disclosure, I will not politicize what I'm doing with the Nevada State Prison. What he said was, when he went by that prison museum in Deer Lodge, Montana, the parking lot is packed. Interesting thing I did during our steering committee phase, I interviewed 11 of the operating prison museums here in the United States. There's like 150 around the world. Deer Lodge, Montana is one of those that is incredible what they're doing there. They have about 15,000 people that live in town, and often they have 35, 40,000 visitors to that museum. So you're absolutely right on every comment on the prison. This is going to be the crown jewel for Carson City tourism. It really and truly is. Currently, Carson is kind of looked at as the hub. You know, come here, take a motel room, but go somewhere else and play. There's enough, when this museum comes online, there's enough in town to keep you here for a 3 or 4 day weekend. When you start looking at the train museum, the museum at the Mint, the historic government buildings downtown are an incredible tourist attraction. All of that stuff is on the drawing board to work together for marketing. So, and just to kind of elaborate just a little bit further beyond the prison part of it, what's going on out there at that facility is unbelievable, the opportunities that exist. It really is. Archaeological sites out there that have been preserved from clear back in the 1800s through like the 1920s, when they decided we need to preserve this stuff. With the right funding, we can have an excavation out there that will rival the ichthyosaur in Berlin, Nevada. That's an absolute possibility. The social aspect of what we can do out there, as far as artists enclave, bed and breakfast, storage areas for the different government entities. There is thousands and thousands of square feet in that facility that can be used for whatever you want. We have the opportunity to create the only training facility outside of the East Coast where correctional officers can have an opportunity to do training in a live setting. We have 3 different styles of cell containment out there that can be used for training. Right now, we have training out there from the Department of Public Safety. They do hostage negotiation and active shooter training. So it's all there. The imagination can go wild out there with what to do.
Yeah, don't forget they made a movie out there and a TV show.
Dan says they made a movie and a TV show. Oh, the Ghost Hunters. Yes. We, about a year and a half ago, we contracted with a company to make a movie out there called The Mustang. And it was about the interaction between a particular inmate and the horse he was in charge of training in the horse training program that actually does exist in the Department of Corrections system. The mic went dead? So we made a movie out there about a year and a half ago about the horse training program, horse gentling program, and it gets really involved with the relationship between a particular prisoner and the horse he was assigned to train. It's an interesting story. I know the people that work for the Department of Corrections thinks it's kind of stupid because it doesn't follow any reality of what would happen in a prison setting. But at any rate, it's fairly entertaining. Yeah, there's been somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 movies have already been made out there at NSP. So that's it goes on and on and on. Any idea you have can happen out there with the right funding and the right time and the right permits, which is what's holding us up right now. What else? Yes.
This was not going to have anything to do with here, but I'm kind of going to. There's a prison out there, or in Stagecoach, right?
Yes.
Okay. Every time we go down through that road, I'm looking over for this prison. I know it's got to be out there somewhere. They've taken the signs down now. They have a replacement where it says, don't pick up hitchhikers.
Right. So they've removed all those signs and everything because that property is essentially abandoned and it's been being looted and robbed and people hanging out in there. Yeah. So no, there hasn't been any prisoners out there for what, Joe, 10 years? Yeah, it's been abandoned for a long time. There's a problem between how the lease was written and the status of ownership, and so it just sits there doing nothing other than being a nuisance.
What's with the hotel downtown? They're gonna finish it?
It's for sale. That's all I know. I don't have any secret information. Oh, the question was, what about the hotel downtown? I don't know anything more than the newspaper knows.
The only thing we know is that you're going to make a big difference.
Thank you, Elmer.
You can count on that.
So again, I want to ask you folks, look at my website, go on my Facebook, like and share, send it to your grandkids, because that's really one of the parts of the population that I don't know how to reach. I have grandkids, but due to being in the military and finding other places to live, I don't have that resource available. So my grandkids are spread out all over the country. Thanks for coming out, folks. I appreciate your time, and I promise I'll do as good a job as I can possibly do. I will make the time to get things done. Thank you.